Yes, I sound fine.
Okay, great. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night talk at Mountain Cloud. We are still reveling in Henry's return and in the retreat he led last week that many here were able to join. Actually, whether you were able to come or not, we're still practicing in the wake of that retreat. The deep and wide sitting across time zones and continents, and the teaching. Roso sitting facing the wall, and Henry guiding us to taste that, just that, nothing more, inexhaustible. Still, practice continues. So, deep thanks, Henry, for coming back with the storehouse of your guidance. Abounding thanks. This week is a confluence of traditions on the calendar. Passover or Pesach began at sundown last Saturday and ends Sunday evening. Those holidays overlap, as they often do, with what Catholics and Protestants celebrate as Holy Week. Mixed into this heightened time in liturgical calendars is today, April Fool's Day, a different kind of marker with its own long history. Koan, that great poet and calligrapher and eccentric, or some would say unconventional Soto Zen monk whose life spanned the 18th to 19th century. He called himself Great Fool. Ryokan loved to play with children, and apparently he liked to drink rice wine. He had few needs and a bodhisattva heart. There's a well-known story. His little hut was once robbed, but the robber found nothing to take. So Ryokan took off his clothes and insisted the thief take them as a gift. Ryokan is said to have mused, "I wish I could have given him the moon." He wrote in a haiku, "The thief left it behind, the moon at my window. To be such a fool." Years ago, I was a graduate student studying the literature of the Hebrew Bible and practicing Zen. In that first year of grad school, as Passover approached, I read the Haggadah, the liturgy of the Passover Seder, in halting Hebrew. Ryokan's story, Great Fool, shone through in part of that liturgy and in a song that derives from it. You can hear children singing it. In the liturgy, event by event, the story of liberation is told, this liberation from bondage. And after each event, the community responds, Dayenu, It is enough, or literally enough to us, this one word. If only this one event, this one experience, this one gift, it is enough. The great sufficiency. Our practice resounds with this refrain. This moment, complete, empty, enough. So last Saturday, Ruben Habito Roshi gave a talk at Maria Koan Zen Center about Holy Week, reclaiming the language of that liturgy of remembering from a Zen perspective. Holy, we know, means set apart. Zen cuts through that implied dualism. Nothing separate, no place to draw a line. Ruben talked about the founding story of this practice being planted in China with Bodhidharma's famous response to the emperor's question about ultimate reality. What is the highest meaning of the holy truth? Vast and empty, no holiness. Hearing this brought to mind, for me, the awakening story of Sekito, or Shitu, that author of the Song of the Grass Hut and the identity of relative absolute. So his awakening is said to have happened when he read a passage from a sutra, this passage. Only those can be called holy who view the world in such a way that they see themselves in all things. That's his phrase, his moment. Only those can be called holy who view the world in such a way that they see themselves in all things. Sekito suddenly saw this and saw through it. He saw more. It is said by Hogan and in other accounts that he exclaimed, "Only those are holy who have no selves, for everything is their self. Who then can speak of you and me, of one self and another's self? Only those are holy. Yet there's only one. Nothing at all. Apart from one, everything." Earlier this week, a longtime Zen practitioner, for a long time a practicing Catholic and a student of Sister Elaine McGinnis. It was Monday, and I knew that she had, had this long tradition. And so I thought to wish her a blessed Holy Week. And she was like, I forgot. It was great. I mean, just so fresh. She told me then the closest she had come to a sense of the holy was when she volunteered to teach silent sitting in a prison, a place set apart. Sitting in a circle facing one another, she looked around at each inmate. As she put it, all different sizes, shapes, and colors, the one common denominator was silence. The one common denominator. During the retreat last week, Henry brought up Yamada Kon Roshi's fraction, that teaching device he often used to point to this world of form and emptiness, each thing perfectly distinct and entirely empty. Each thing an expression of a function of existing by virtue of that one common denominator. Whatever we take up, an inmate in prison, any one of us gathered here, any of the 10,000 myriad things is the numerator, distinct, unrepeatable. The denominator is zero, which Yamada Kon Roshi also showed as the infinity sign, that sideways 8. And then to make the analogy more emphatic, he drew a circle around the fraction. One reality, nothing at all. And yet, here we are, sitting together. What a wonder. Every koan is an invitation to realize it, to let the tiny artifice of a line between numerator and denominator just slip away, to fall into the infinite zero, or as Henry said, to let the arrow of the koan that points directly at me pierce us all the way through. So to be honest, after keeping company with Roso's koan throughout the retreat and beyond, I wasn't sure where to turn. This Shoyoroku 23. Whenever Roso saw a monk coming, he immediately sat facing the wall. It seems sort of like a tattoo, but no skin, or a void where things come rushing in. So here are a few of those pieces from the tradition, and I just hope that there's some coherence. One of the pieces is Dogen's Zazen Shin, or needle point of Zazen, a pointer to what Roso was doing, sitting facing the wall. This is in the translation by Nishijima and Cross. And Dogen wrote it as a sort of rewriting of Wanshi or Hongshi's Zazen Shin, which Dogen so admired above all others. And I just want to say it's not that long, but if you don't know it, just let the language wash over you. Zazen Shin. Pivotal essence of every Buddha, essential pivot of every ancestor. Beyond thinking, realizing. Beyond complication, realization. Beyond thinking, realizing. The realizing is naturally immediate. Beyond complication, realization. The realization is naturally a state of experience. The realizing is naturally immediate. There has been no taintedness. The realization is naturally a state of experience. There has been no rightness or divergence. There has been no tainting of the immediacy. That immediacy is without reliance, yet it gets free. There has been no rightness or divergence in the experience. That state of experience is without design, yet it makes effort. And here's the last stanza. The water is clean, right down to the ground. Fishes are swimming like fishes. The sky is wide, clear through to the heavens, and birds are flying like birds. The needlepoint of Zazen, an acupuncture needle, exactly placed for maximum healing, maximum life, maximum embodiment. That is your Zazen, even if we don't see it. Case 100 of the Book of Equanimity, or Shoyoroku, also came to mind. I think it's the facing, maybe that facing quality. A monk comes quoting a sutra and asking Master Kaku of Roya. Here's the quote. The essential state is pure and clear. How are mountains, rivers, and the great wide earth produced at once? How does all of life, as Henry put it, the vast mineral desert of the universe and the great bloom of this planet, how all at once does it come from absolutely nothing? Kaku responds, perfectly facing the question, just turning it. The essential state is pure and clear. How are mountains, rivers, and the great wide earth produced at once? There they are. Here they are. Recently, a student who was earnestly sitting with Mu just let fall into that mooing, the question, where do thoughts come from? The first impulse was the head. We imagine thoughts come from here. Then came all the organs, the body. Then that too widened. This entire biosphere is participating in producing thought. Suddenly, the student said, inside and outside made no sense. There's that line about Mu from Hinton's translation of Mumon's commentary. But let all the delusions of a lifetime go, all the understanding and insight, and slowly, little by little, nurture the simplicity of occurrence appearing of itself. Soon, inner and outer are a single tissue. Another student told of sitting facing the wall, and suddenly the wall was facing her. Not only facing her, coming at her, into her, in a way she could only call love. One dissolving, one wall sitting, no one doing anything. Roso sat facing the wall. Henry posed the question, was Roso teaching? Whenever anyone would come, he turned and faced the wall. So one more koan came to mind. This kaleidoscopic view. It's case 62 in the Blue Cliff Record, beginning with Engo or Wanwu's instruction. I think it's the instruction that really struck here. It refers to Unmon and his activity in this case, 62. But there's also a hint, a flavor of Roso and of Dogen's Zazen Shin. See if you can hear it. This is Engo's instruction. Using the wisdom of no teacher, he reveals the wondrous activity of non-doing. Using the compassion of no relationships, he becomes the outstanding friend who does not need to be asked. In one word, there is killing, there is giving life. In the midst of a single activity, there is letting go and holding fast. Is Roso doing this? Are you, when you turn and face the wall? When you fold your body into Zazen, however that may be? Using the wisdom of no teacher, he reveals the wondrous activity of non-doing. The wisdom of no teacher. That wisdom is intrinsic to us, to each of us. Not only no teacher, empty. It's what this is, and it's constantly functioning. Zazen is its complete expression. Using the compassion of no relationships, he becomes the outstanding friend who does not need to be asked. You could say that Roso, like Mu, like Unmon in this case, is using the compassion of no relationships. Using, functioning. One long-time practitioner who just dissolved into Mu, who experienced Mu's fulfillment, described Mu as a friend, an ever-present companion, no need to be asked. It's one way of putting it. Mu can do everything. Such compassion. this immediate friend. In one word, there is killing, there is giving life. In the midst of a single activity, there is letting go and holding fast. A single word. Haven't read the case yet, so let it be mu. A single activity. Zazen. Demolishing. Suddenly here we on Roso, you demolishing our constructs, our clinging, whatever we think we know. Unleashing the great freedom of being at home, at large, in the vast dynamism of this world, exactly as you are. These lines refer to Unman's activity in the case and to the single hidden jewel he wields with such agility. So then Engo says, just tell me, who came in this way? And he cites the case. Look. I'll just take this up very briefly. Maybe it's a prelude to some future talk. Here's the case. Unman spoke to the assembly, saying, between heaven and earth and within the universe, there is a single jewel. It secretly dwells within the mountain of form. It picks up a lantern, goes to the Buddha hall, takes the main gate, and places it on the lantern. It's short, but it's packed. That single jewel, seamless, completely transparent. Henry talked about the uncut jewel, not even polished. So clear, so singular, yet showing itself in the great multiplicity of things, manifesting in the mountain of form. Whatever appears, there it is. Each distinct form. This jewel making each thing what it is. This hand is a hand. Actually, by virtue of being no hand. God, but here but God. Here again is how Dogen put it in that last stanza. The water is clean, right down to the ground. Fishes are swimming like fishes. The sky is wide, clear through to the heavens, and birds are flying like birds. This is not just our zazen. It's the zazen of the world. How could there be a difference? Unman presents this single jewel, one transparency. Then he tells what it does. It picks up the lantern and goes to the Buddha hall. Easy to translate. It turns on the light and logs onto Zoom. It listens to a talk and then goes and makes dinner. Then, Unman writes, it takes the main gate. That would be that temple gate, and places it on the lantern. I think a lot of us are familiar with this koan, so that, just amazing churning in this topsy-turvy world. I mean, even so, I feel it. It takes this massive main gate, and puts it on the lantern. That's this world of infinite capacity, constant change, endlessly to be explored. Endlessly. Back in February, during the snow moon, just after that wild Arctic storm had come and mostly gone, I mentioned this before, part of this story. A student from West Texas recalled a poem by Dogen. She recited it by memory. The poem had struck a chord for the student some years ago, but the storm brought it up in a new way, sort of like the freshly fallen snow. I think at the same time, she happened to come across a podcast, an old podcast, an interview with Kaz Tanahashi, where the interviewer had asked, what inspired you to do this work on Moon in a Dewdrop, that first compendium of translated texts by Dogen, and commentary and notes. Kaz Tanahashi said, it was the opportunity, the chance to translate this poem, Snow. It's 4 lines. Here's Dogen's poem. All my life, false and real, right and wrong tangled. Playing with the moon, ridiculing wind, listening to the birds. Many years wasted seeing the mountain covered with snow. This winter, I suddenly realize snow makes a mountain. I Googled this poem, and there was a link to a series of paintings by Kaz Tanahashi called Snow Inside. This student went on to describe an artifact that now inhabits my imagination, a wooden shed, probably used to store hay, that sits in an open field beside the highway that runs west in Texas toward Lubbock, a highway she often travels. The shed's beauty constantly changing, capturing the light and capturing her in some way each time she passed by. So she told me she tried to pull over, get out of the car for a closer look, but the wind, this is West Texas, the flatlands, prairie, and then the traffic whizzing by on that 4-lane divided highway, it's just very uninviting, prohibitive. Should I go there with my art supplies, stake out a place in the field and try to capture this beauty? Or should I just let it be, let it go? Then one time, she drove by, and the quick glimpse of the shed was suddenly as if it entered her body, no near or far. So back at home and marveling at that fleeting lightning flash of an experience and still wondering, should I go there or not? In one moment, all that dithering about right or wrong just went quiet. And the shed captured her. Later, trying to relay this scene, she suddenly said, I am the shed. And later still, I made an appreciative comment about this, and she said, I rewrote the poem. She rewrote Dogen's poem. I mean, so fitting to this tradition. Here's Dogen again. All my life, false and real, right and wrong tangled, playing with the moon, ridiculing wind, listening to birds, many years wasted seeing the mountain covered with snow. This winter, I suddenly realized snow makes a mountain. And here's the new poem. All my life, yes or no, this or that, undecided, playing with the light, turning in the wind, adjusting the lens. Many years wasted seeing the shed pass by my window. This drive, to my surprise, the shed is in the car. It takes the temple gate and puts it on the lantern. This single jewel, nothing to grasp, yet suddenly presenting itself. And if we're available, upending our sense of distance and dimension, of any calculus, our sense of what makes things what they are. I'm going to close with just one more poem. I know this is not like we need to pass around the sorbet or palate cleanser, but this was just sent to me, and the fit, just struck home. It's a poem called "The Unwritten" by W.S. Merwin. Just sitting with this one single hidden treasure. Merwin writes, inside this pencil crouch words that have never been written, never been spoken, never been taught. They're hiding. They're awake in there, dark in the dark, hearing us, but they won't come out. Not for love, not for time, not for fire. Even when the dark has worn away, they'll still be there, hiding in the air. Multitudes in days to come may walk through them, breathe them, be none the wiser. What script can it be that they won't unroll? In what language would I recognize it? Would I be able to follow it, to make out the real names of everything? Maybe there aren't many. It could be that there's only one word, and it's all we need. It's here in this pencil. Every pencil in the world is like this. Not only like this, just this. And it's enough. Thank you for listening.